Hi, I'm Deborah Harding. I'm the collection manager in anthropology, and I take care of the ethnographic and special collections in this department. What I wanted to show you today was some of our doll collection. The Carnegie has somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,000 dolls. Now, you might think that's a little strange for a natural history collection, but we weren't always a natural history museum. Initially, we were just Carnegie Museum, and we had everything. Dolls are found in pretty much every culture in the world. Dolls are not just toys, they are toys, but part of their purpose, besides keeping the kids busy and out of your hair, is to teach them their roles in life. These are Inuit dolls. This is carved out of wood, and it has leather clothing. It's got a little bit of some sort of soft fur around the edge. She's got sealskin, and she has a sweet little face. That's the female doll. This little doll may have belonged to a little boy, and that in the winter when he was in the house and wasn't out playing outside or whatever was happening, in the evenings he could play at being a mighty hunter, something that would be a very important role in his life of feeding his family. In 1896, one of our very first collections was from Fort Totten, North Dakota. It was mostly Lakota material, Sioux, and it included this doll. So this little lady is at least 120 years old. And what is really cool about her, it's hard to see, but she has feathers on her heels. And this is to make her feet light as she goes through life. Dolls were made for many purposes. There's the toys for children. And in the 18th century, there started to be a fad for collectible dolls. And these were collected by adults. Children still had little rag dolls or whatever it was to play with, but adults got into having fancy dolls that they could display. So I'm going to show you some dolls that were made for sale, and we'll end up with our fancy doll. So this one, I love this one. This is an early 20th century doll, and this was made by a woman who lived probably in Iowa or Oklahoma, that area, because it is from one of the prairie tribes. This is from, it's listed as being from the Fox tribe. And it's a guy, and he's carrying a bag that probably would have had his pipe in it. He's got beaded loincloth, both sides, beaded garters on his leggings. His vest is made out of brain-tanned buckskin, which you have to make yourself. It wasn't available commercially. He's got a silk shirt, pretty fancy. And what I really love is they've used yarn to make him a braided belt. This is a kind of flat braiding called finger weaving that is common to the tribes of the eastern half of North America. This is Marie Antoinette, and she has a lovely ostrich feather in her velvet hat. There's an interesting story connected with her and her sisters, and she's part of a collection of about 40 dolls that were made in Paris in 1916. You're in the midst of World War I. You wouldn't think that they were doing this, but they were. 5 of the dolls, these larger dolls, are what are known as A-Mark dolls. The face was designed by an artist, Albert Marc. Marc designed the doll to look like his little sister's face. And one of the things that was special about them at the time is so many of the dolls had these sort of insipid looks. We think that there were 100 of them because of the marks on the back of the head. They currently know where about 25 of them are. We have 5 of them, and they're dressed as queens and empresses of France. But the most special doll in our collection, as far as I am concerned, is Miss Cochi. Miss Cochi was part of a doll exchange in the late 20s that was started by a missionary, Sidney Gulick. This was a bad period in relations between Japan and the United States. The Alien Exclusion Act, aimed mostly at Asians, had been put through as a law in this country, and He wanted to improve the relationship, and he figured the best way is through children. Adults already have their minds made up, and they have lots of reasons for what they do, some political, some prejudicial, whatever. But children don't have those prejudices, and they definitely don't have any political agendas. So he arranged this doll exchange, and children all over the country gathered up dolls, inexpensive dolls, and they sent them to children in schools in Japan. So what the Japanese did, instead of sending back cheap little dolls to the schools, is they had a competition, and they got the master doll makers of Japan, people whose family had been making beautiful dolls for centuries. And they had 50 dolls made. At that time, there were 48 states. So one went to represent Japan. She was Miss Japan, and she went to the Smithsonian. And now they had an extra doll. Pennsylvania gave so many dolls that Pennsylvania got 2. In 1992, a delegation from the museum went back to Kochi City with Miss Kochi. The director and the curator took her back, and she stayed there. People came to see her from all over the area. There were a couple of little old ladies who remembered her leaving in 1929 to come to America. They were little girls. She's just wonderful. She has real hair, and one hair is turned gray. The school in Wilkinsburg formed a sister city with a Japanese city, and people from there came and brought back the doll that had come from Wilkinsburg, and they were exhibited together. And so there was an exchange with the people of Wilkinsburg. Maybe it took a little while, but Mr. Gulick's dream has come true to an extent. Now, one thing, there are no longer 50 of these dolls in existence that we know of, because World War II intervened. And a lot of these were taken off display out of the museums where they were. Some of them were sold. And the Japanese destroyed a lot of the dolls that had come from America and were in the schools. And there were people who, at the risk of their lives, hid the dolls during the duration of the war. Alice Johnston was the doll from Wilkinsburg. But the school teacher knew that she would be suspected if she took the doll and tried to hide her. So the janitor took the doll and hid her. And if she had been found out, he would have been killed. It would have been a treasonous act. The dolls were taken out into the schoolyards and heaped up and burned. So through people of goodwill, the dolls survived here and in Japan, and they finally got to get together again 20 years ago. I think she's one of the most beautiful dolls we have.
If you like this video, please press like and subscribe. And also, please visit us here at the Carnegie Museum of Natural History.